I'll tell you this, not all cards are created equal. Like a CF card versus an S/S card versus a red mag, or even a Codex mag. Both the older style and the newer XR style. How they're built internally is different. What aptitude they are, or an SD card even for that matter, the aptitude for that data to be corrupted even, at the mag level too. So I would say that's probably what I think of when I think of proper labeling and data handling. And then that translates into the drives that I hand off to post as well.
On some shows, you're doing 3, 4 plus copies of all the material. So if you're doing a 2 or 3 camera show, you have the equivalent of 9 different hard drives worth of material. It's a lot of data. In the future, hard drives are going to be extremely important because a lot of 4K type of production is coming very quickly, sort of in the commercial world, in television. And that amount of data is very hard to manage sometimes, especially when you have multi-camera shoots, 2, 3, 4 cameras going at the same time. You need a lot of very high-powered processing that happens, and you have to do that in a very small amount of time. And then if you add on any type of color correction or transcoding into that mix, it becomes terabytes of data that you're shoveling through to multiple drives every single day, and then sending the drives off to post, and as well as keeping archive on the set for you as a backup. So it becomes very complicated, and it's very important to keep control of where all the drives are, who has what the data totals that you're shooting every day are, because a lot of production companies in the commercial world will want to know how much data they actually shot every single day, and they can generally use that sometimes to bill the agency if they're doing transcoding, and they want to have a good handle on how much data that they're sending to post, so when they start cutting the material, they know sort of what the ballpark is, how much material they have, and how long it will take them to process it, get out the dailies, or to do their final color correction.
Wow. As far as the media is concerned, will you be supplying drives, and what kind of drives will you be supplying? You'd be surprised that producers really don't know anything about hard drives. They leave it up to someone else. And typically the person they leave it up to comes with what I call your everyday mom and pop drives, which are not really the kind of drives you should use on feature films, television productions, or webisodes. They have a failure factor that's a little greater than the better drives.
I've had stuff, corruption, most people don't realize this, corruption is actually a power issue. Majority of the time, that's what corruption, because a SSD, a flash module, is a membrane. And that membrane needs electricity in order for it to be liquid to push those zeros and ones through that membrane. Second, that membrane is not energized, it no longer accepts data. So what you can have is, if you have a string of data, which is a shot, if it doesn't have all that information, which is the computer programs are expecting on the other side, then it can be corrupt. Now, it may only be corrupt to one program. Another program, it might be fine because it doesn't require that number. But very rarely, and most of the time, yeah, it's at the camera. Sometimes it's the actual camera module. It's not the media itself. Media is very simple, but the actual module that, for example, goes on the Alexa, those ProRes modules, there are 3 screws and a little piece of serial port that's about that big, and run it through a rental house for a year or 2 years, no one ever pulls that out and services it, you start getting corruption. And then the camera assistants are like, it's the cards! And it's like, no, it's actually the module. So that's prep. That's why you prep. I can always justify a prep for exactly that reason.
A $6,000 figure. They go ballistic. What do you mean $6,000? Can't we just go down to Best Buy and get some hard drives? Yes, you can. But that's a very risky move. chances are you're going to have to get quite a few of them, which means instead of having, say, a RAID holding your data, you have a bunch of independent drives, which are pretty cheaply made, holding your data. I don't think they see the correlation. And I think a lot of them just want to get by and hopefully that the drives hold their own until the production is over. But still, if anything goes down within 5-6 months of you shooting, your negative is it's going to cost you $3,000 or $4,000 just to recover that data. And I've seen that happen on at least 2 occasions. Mm-hmm. So I would tell them, on that, you can't be cheap on drives. I've had producers go after a particular drive. I make a recommendation. They go, "Oh no, we got it," and they buy XYZ drive. And in one case, it was so funny. In 1 week, 2 drives went down. Now they're calling me. What was the name of that company again? Who can we call? So it's like, I'm not doing this for the fun of it. I'm not doing it for the money. I don't get a kickback on it. I'm doing it so save me time and having to recopy something on a drive that went down, or trying to save you time and the hassle of having to go back out again to buy something that you should have bought in the first place.
It's up to the producer to purchase, or production to purchase the hard drives, but it is together that we decide on what kind of hard drives that we get, and what the size, quantity. I'll usually order slightly more than what we need, and most places will take unopened hard drives back.
So when talking to a producer and figuring out what hard drives and how many hard drives they need, there's a couple of factors I take into consideration: the number of cameras, the type of cameras, and the data format. If we're shooting let's say a red shoot, and we're shooting 2 cameras and we're shooting a 2-to-1, I know for a fact that that's going to end up being at least 1 terabyte a day. And if it's a 5-day shoot, we need at least 5 terabytes. And then if they want to do transcodes and they want to do the ProRes 444 is almost equivalent to the same size as the red files. So then I have to estimate almost 3 to 4 terabytes a day. So it really depends on what the camera is, what the data rate and everything is, which is also why I talk to the producer and the DP and the editor before every shoot. And now with digital compared to film, when you got on a film set, the DP and the director, when they would shoot something, they would start shooting, and then when they got to a point where the director wanted to make a change, they would cut. The director would go in, he'd talk to them, then they'd go back, they'd set everything up, they'd slate, and they'd shoot again. Now with digital, because you're not really paying for the media, you're just paying for the storage, they forget that. So a lot of times you'll get what we call hold-the-roll directors. And hold-the-roll directors are more interested in getting performance captured than worrying about how much data is actually recorded. So sometimes you'll get like a 30-second shot, and then the director will go in there and talk to their actor and then move back and then just immediately call action, but the camera's never stopped.